You're listening to Stand Out Get Noticed, episode 230. Hi there, Rockstar, and welcome to Stand Out Get Noticed. I'm your host, Christina Canters. I'm a coach, a speaker, and the founder of The C Method, where I'm all about helping high-performing professionals and business leaders to build powerful communication skills. You can learn more at thecmethod.com. Now, a few weeks ago on the podcast, I announced I would be more active on Instagram. I openly shared about how I haven't really had much of a clue around Instagram, but I'm learning the ropes. And I sent out an email to my community. And I got to say, I had an overwhelming number of you write back and to share with me how you use Instagram, who you follow, the types of posts that you like to see, and so on. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who wrote back. I am eternally grateful and thank you for helping to educate me. And since then, it has got me thinking, how much of myself should I be sharing on Instagram? And this is a question, not just Instagram, on social media. There's many different platforms, of course. There's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I am on all of them. And it's been an ongoing question or, debate in my mind around how much do I share? What do I share? How much is too much? And what is necessary for me to achieve my objectives of growing my brand and my business? And I was finally inspired to do this podcast on this topic from an email that I received from podcast listener Lucy, whose Instagram is @thesaltyhound. Now I'm going to read out what the email said, what Lucy wrote. She writes, "Hi Christina, thanks for your emails and podcasts. I hope you'd consider covering my slightly unusual conundrum in a future podcast. My dog has a moderately large following, 69,000 followers at the moment. I'd say, side note, that's more than moderate. That's pretty excellent. And a lot of the posts are about our regular life. Snuggles on Sundays, drinking at bars, watching trash TV. I like to keep my dog's Instagram life separate from my personal life. I'm an economist at an organization with a lot of media exposure. But I know a lot of my friends, colleagues, and acquaintances follow Salty, her dog. This means people in my professional life see me in my pajamas on a regular basis. It's hard to know where the line is too unprofessional. But it also gives me great opportunities for speaking. We've been on morning TV and had some big internet videos. I suspect other people on Instagram with it as a bit of a side gig also struggle with this tension. So I hope you cover this a bit in an upcoming podcast. Thanks, Lucy." So firstly, thank you, Lucy, for sharing that with me. And I am certain that other people are sharing this challenge of yours. So here's me addressing it on the podcast. Now, some of you might be thinking, hang on, wait, isn't this podcast about like communication and speaking? The reason why I'm talking about this is because whether you like it or not, social media plays a key role in our communication. If you're a business owner like me, or if you're running a side gig like Lucy, it's somewhat mandatory to have a social media presence, to build that following in that community. It's an extension of your brand, right? If you heard the podcast from last week with Suzanne Chadwick, we talked all about personal branding, and she was the one who also inspired me to get more active on Instagram. The way that you present online and through social media is all going to tie into how people see you and view you and want to interact with you. So social media, the way I see it, it's still communication. You're communicating who you are and what you stand for, and it's just in the online setting, right? So if you're an employed professional, perhaps this is something your company has encouraged you to do. Maybe they've said, hey, go on and create a LinkedIn account. And being on LinkedIn, for example, is even more important if you're job hunting or looking for new opportunities. And tell me honestly if you've never ever Googled someone before you've met them, right? I think we can all relate to that. We are all curious. Before I meet with someone, I usually Google them and see what they're all about. So the way that we communicate online is absolutely critical to our overall brand. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts around using social media and how much you should share. I'm going to answer Lucy's question, and I'll give you, and first I want to share with you how I use social media at the moment. So firstly, Facebook is the platform I've been on the longest, and that's where I'm connected with people I actually know, right? So I've decided that that's going to be my personal, like proper personal profile. And I get friend requests all the time from people I don't know, and quite frankly, I ignore them. Maybe some of you listening, maybe you've tried to friend me on Facebook and I've ignored you. I'm sorry for that. But honestly, I don't know who, if I've not met you in person, I'm not going to connect with you because that's what I've decided for my Facebook. For LinkedIn, it's all about business, right? So it's business posts, and I will connect with anyone. Unless you are clearly a salesperson trying to pitch me in your initial post, I'm not going to connect with you. But apart from that, I will connect with anyone. So if you're listening to this, come on over and connect with me on LinkedIn. Twitter, I only use when I'm at conferences or events because I can search for the hashtag of the conference and I can see conversations that are happening in real time. So that's the main way that I use Twitter. I also have my assistant post my podcast automatically. Well, it's not automatic because he does it, but I get him to post every single week. But that's the extent of my Twitter use. And then Instagram, I used to only use it for travel, but as you know, I'm now starting to use it more for business and building up my brand and connecting with you, dear listener, and using it as a blend of personal and business. All right, so if you're in this conundrum of how much do I share on social media, I've got three steps for you. 3. Let's get into it. The first one is to decide what is your intention for your social media use. So think about, why are you on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn? You may have different objectives and intentions for each platform, and that's okay, right? As you heard, I'm on Facebook for personal reasons, to connect with people I actually know. For LinkedIn, it's there. I'm purely there to build my brand and to grow my business and to connect with people who might want to work with me or who I might want to collaborate with. So I've got very clear intentions for what I want to achieve for each of the platforms. So have a think about that, okay? Because then that's going to then help you decide, what are you going to share. Now, step 2 is to set clear boundaries for yourself. Now, when you've done step 1 and you've decided, why are you on this platform in the first place? What do you want to achieve? You can then create some boundaries around it. And when I say boundaries, I mean boundaries around what you post, how often you post, and who you connect with. Okay, so this is your choice. You get to choose, right, what your boundaries are. Just because some people choose to share certain types of posts, or they post certain times of the day or certain amounts of time during the day, you don't have to do what they're doing, all right? You can do whatever the heck that you want, because this is your life, it's your account, you get to choose. If you don't want 1,000 or 5,000 friends on Facebook, that's fine. I used to do a friend purge every so often, and I used to have like a 300 friend max rule and a 1 friend in, 1 friend out rule. So once I hit 300 friends, if I friended someone, I had to unfriend someone else, because they were my boundaries. Now, that was before I started my business. Since starting my business, it's become a lot harder to do that because I'm meeting so many more people. So I'm now at 1,006 friends, and I haven't done a purge for a while, but I would like to do that actually. It's been a good reminder. If you, for example, are deciding that you want to use Instagram purely for sharing personal photos about your life and you want it to just be for friends and family, then that's fine. Make it a private account and keep it that way. So, get clear on what are these boundaries that you have for yourself. Who will you friend and who will you not? So one of my boundaries for Facebook was at the moment it is still, I will not friend you if we haven't met in person. And there's only a few exceptions to that rule, right? But But generally, if we haven't met in person, I'm not going to friend you on Facebook. Now, the third step I want to share with you is to know the difference between transparency and authenticity. And I'll explain what I mean. So I was researching this, because I was interested to learn, what are other people's definitions of this? What are their thoughts? And according to social media guru Pam Moore, she says, transparency is how much you share, and authenticity is the truth of your words and actions. So I'm big on authenticity, okay? You can be 100% authentic all the time when you're posting, but you can have varying levels of transparency, and you can pick your level of transparency based on the platform. Okay, so for example, when we talk about being authentic, this may require you to be vulnerable, right? So you might feel a little uncomfortable about what it is that you're posting, but not too uncomfortable, right? There's a line there. Because sometimes being authentic and being vulnerable and sharing some of the struggles that you're going through can be some of the most impactful posts that you share, okay? So maybe you are getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, and that's okay. So it might be, for example, sharing a personal story when you're not used to sharing personal stories. If you're used to talking just business, or I'm at this event, or I'm speaking here, maybe share a personal story about maybe a conversation that you had where you learned something. That could be showing some authenticity and being vulnerable. Or maybe you do a video of yourself not wearing any makeup, if you're used to wearing makeup or looking a certain way. Or just sharing something different that you're not used to sharing. And so being vulnerable and being authentic is totally fine, but you can choose how transparent you want to be based on that platform. So for example, on LinkedIn, I feel comfortable. I might feel comfortable sharing a struggle that I'm going through that is related to my productivity or my business. So for example, I did a post a few months ago around how I was really struggling with winter and being productive and staying happy and healthy and motivated during winter. And I asked people in the video, is this something you're going through? What do you do to overcome this if this is something you're going through? And for me, that wasn't something I would normally share, because normally I'm talking about podcasting or communication and leadership. So that was something a little different, and it was a bit out of my comfort zone to do it. But what it wasn't was a rant about how much I hate winter and I'm feeling really terrible and I wish I could just leave my business and go lie on a beach in Thailand. Okay, it wasn't just an offloading rant, okay? There's a difference between being vulnerable and authentic and just offloading your emotional rant onto the platform. So even if I was feeling terrible and wanted to go lie on a beach in Thailand, I'm choosing not to be that transparent, right? I'll give you another example. Another podcast listener, Chantal, her Instagram is @TillyandTrue. She wrote into me to share her Instagram with me, and she also admitted that she's taken a bit of a step back from posting on Instagram because it was taking over a little bit. But she has a coaching business around self-love and body image. And side note, she also has a full-time job, like Lucy. Now, Chantal posts images of herself. I've had a look at her profile. She posts very vulnerable images of herself. Some of them are her in a swimsuit, right? And she's showing, and the posts that she's sharing are, hey, I love my body. I'm promoting, a healthy body image and self-love. So for her, it's appropriate to share that level of transparency on her social media. Right? Now, for me, I would never post a picture of myself in a swimsuit on Instagram, because that level of transparency is totally not comfortable for me. And I don't feel that adds to my brand at all. That's not what I want to be known for, right? So for me, that level of transparency is that's not what I'm going to do. So, it's okay to pick what your level of transparency is. For some people, sharing a certain level of transparency is okay. There are some online entrepreneurs who share their monthly income to the cent online with everyone. And that's something that is aligned with their brand, and they want to do that. For 99% of us are not going to share what our income is, every single month, because that level of transparency maybe not appropriate, and also definitely do not feel comfortable with doing that. So coming back to Lucy's question, right? If your brand, the Salty Hound, is you and Salty hanging out at home on the couch in your pajamas, and that is your authentic self, and that is your brand, and that is what your followers love about you, and you're comfortable with showing that level of vulnerability, then by all means, go for it. Okay, I say go for it. Because in your message you said this is what people love about you, that it's just you and Salty hanging out on the couch. So do that. If that aligns with your brand, then that's totally fine. Now, if I was coaching you, Lucy, on this challenge, I would ask, and have a listen to this question if you are going through a similar conundrum. Lucy, has sharing posts of you in your pajamas on the couch been detrimental to your professional career? And have you received feedback from people in your workplace around this? Has it prevented opportunities for you, or has it hurt your professional brand? Has it hurt your career? And I ask this because, I'm big on mindset, right? And I know all of us carry these limiting beliefs around with us. We think, I'm afraid of doing that because this might happen. And oftentimes these are stories that we make up in our head. Now, you may not have anything to worry about at all, Lucy. It could be a story that you're telling yourself, that it comes across as unprofessional. So if you're not sure, I recommend asking your colleagues or your boss or whoever it is at work that you respect and say, hey, I would love to hear your honest opinion. Sharing these posts, does this hurt my professional brand? Do you think any less of me? What impression does this give of me in the workplace? Something that I did at the start of 2017 was I made the decision to stop editing my solo episodes. In other words, I'm doing them all in a single take. Now, my limiting belief around that was, what if I make a mistake and I and I stumble and I have an awkward pause? Are my listeners going to think, oh, Christina's not a good communicator? She's, she's not this professional person that we thought she was. We're not going to follow her anymore. That was my fear, that I would not come across as professional, especially as a communication skills specialist. But I gave it a go, and I had listeners write back to me to say, Christina, I can't even notice the difference between you editing yourself and not editing yourself. And other people have said, Christina, I find your podcast even more impactful because you are showing that you are human and that you are making mistakes, right? So for me, that was a limiting belief. So Lucy, my challenge to you is to challenge that belief that you have around it and to find out for sure if it really is true. Now, if you do find out that it is hurting your professional brand, okay, let's say that people come back and say, Lucy, we really don't like that. It doesn't look good for you. It doesn't represent our company well. If that's the feedback that comes back, then you need to think about, okay, am I going to change what I post on Instagram and still be authentic, but maybe less transparent, right? So control that transparency. So, like I said before, you can still be authentic and not share everything, right? So maybe that's a decision you make. Or the alternative is thinking, well, if you really, really want to share that level of transparency on Instagram with Salty, and that aligns with your values and you feel strongly that you must share that type of content, then maybe the workplace that you're in isn't the best fit for you. Just saying. But ultimately, it is up to you, right? You're in control. This is something that you can do. You can choose to change whatever it is that you do, whatever you share. So this is up to you, Lucy. Okay. Now, I do have some final thoughts of some things you should never do on social media. Coming right up after this quick break. Hi, Rockstar. Just want to take a quick break to say a huge thank you to everyone who completed the Stand Out Get Noticed podcast listener survey. Now, I am running that survey for the next week. So for those of you who haven't filled out the survey and want to have a say in the direction of the Stand Out Get Noticed podcast, then go to thecmethod.com/survey. You will find that link in the description of this podcast in your app. Now, I run this podcast based on what, I think you guys want to hear. And I get a lot of feedback from you, but I created this survey because I want to really dive into all of the things that I could be doing better and knowing what works so I can continue to do that for you. So far, I will be open and transparent with you. I've had 21 people fill out that survey, and I'm eternally grateful for you. And I would love to get to 50. I would love at least 50 responses to give me a good cross-section of listeners. So if you want to have your say in the future of the Stand Out Get Noticed podcast, go to thecmethod.com/survey. It will take you 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes max. It's not super long. And your answers will be everlasting. Alternatively, if you don't want to fill out the survey, I'm jumping on phone calls with listeners, just 5 to 10 minutes, phone calls to hear feedback from you personally. So if that's something you want to do instead of the survey, email me, cc@thecmethod.com, and we will set up a time to have a call. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to speak with you. All right, let's get back to the show. Alrighty, welcome back. Now you've heard my 3 steps on how to decide what to share or what not to share on social media. Now, here are some final thoughts on some things you should never do on social media. The first thing is never spill your guts in a long emotional rant. We do not need to see that. And especially about your job, right? You don't know who's going to see this, right? So we don't need to hear that just a long rant about something. This leads into the second thing you should never do, which is never post when you're in a negative state. So never post on social media if you're feeling angry, upset, or frustrated and you're in the height of that emotion, okay? Because then your chances are you're going to post something that you're going to regret later. So post it. So calm down first. Think about what you really want to share. How can you do this in an authentic way that's going to add value and not just dump on people? And then make your post. You may find that you don't even want to post at all after that, okay? Because once it's published, it's published. It's out there. You can't take it back. I don't care what people say. You can delete a post, but things are always out there on the internet, right? They're out there. You know, I was talking about boundaries before, about how you deciding on clear boundaries. You also need to respect other people's boundaries. So people are on social media to be updated on news. They want to be entertained. They want to see something funny. They want to keep up to date with what's going on with you. But they shouldn't have to deal with your emotions and your angers and your frustrations, right? That's not for them to deal with. That's for you to deal with. That's not their problem. That's your problem. So deal with it first. And then when you think, okay, I can still add value here and share my experience in an authentic way, then do that. Never post anything that you wouldn't want to be seen in the public realm. So never assume that your posts are 100% private. Assume, worst case scenario, that anyone can see these posts. Your mother, your grandmother, your boss, your future employer, your clients, your potential clients, assume they can all see it. Even if you post something just to your friends, say on Facebook, posts can be copied, they can be pasted, they can be screenshotted. So I highly recommend not posting any pictures of yourself getting loose, being drunk, or getting nude unless that's part of your brand. All right? Assume that anyone can see those posts. Something also you should never do is to have your location setting on all the time and posting with your location. This is more of a security thing because potential stalkers can see where you are. I was watching a TV show and I saw there was a story of a couple who were robbed because they posted a bunch of selfies of themselves in their own home and posted photos of like the stuff in their home. So you could see what TV they had. They were posting pictures of the jewelry that they owned. And then they would post when they, leaving the house now, or they had location settings turned on. So on the show, they were interviewing the burglars, and the burglars were saying, yeah, I just go onto Facebook and look, I can see that they're posting here. I can see that they're out of the house and I can see exactly where they're living because they had location services turned on. He goes, it's super easy. Now that's pretty scary. And I don't want to, this isn't a post about, online security because that's a whole other topic, but that's just one thing to keep in mind. Something else you should never do on social media is post just for the likes and attention, and also obsessively checking your phone for likes and comments. If you notice yourself, again, back to the transparency, if you're posting a lot and like all throughout your day and you're just constantly doing it and then obsessively checking back to see how many people have liked it, I just want you to be aware of that and think to yourself, okay, why am I posting so much? Why am I doing this? Because if you're just doing it for the likes and the attention, then there's something that's maybe not quite right for you in terms of how you're feeling about yourself. So I encourage you to take a step back and go, is there something that I'm needing right now that I'm not getting from maybe the people around me or my relationships? Again, whole other topic, just something I want you to keep in mind. Something else to not do on social media is to assume that what you see is a direct reflection of people's lives, because it is not. Now, I personally have a rule for myself that I do not mindlessly scroll. If I'm going to scroll through my feed, I'm going to do it intentionally and make time to do it. Because I've noticed the more I scroll and look at other people's posts, the more I think to myself, oh man, everyone else's lives look so amazing and they're doing so much and they're so happy and all this brilliant stuff's happening. What am I doing with my life? And I start to get that niggly voice in my head telling me, Christina, you're not doing enough. You haven't achieved enough. Look what everyone else is doing. And it's awful because it gives you this false sense of other people's success. Now, of course, this is a result of people not being fully transparent, for good reason, as reasons I've stated, earlier in this podcast. I'm not, for example, I'm not going to post a picture of myself, curled up on the couch, feeling, super tired on a Wednesday night and not wanting to go to work tomorrow, right? Because I don't want you to see that. That's not part of my brand. So what you're seeing are generally just posts of, the fun things I'm doing. Like that's what I want to post. Here's something fun I'm doing. Here's something cool that I'm doing. Here's some exciting news. So that's all you're seeing. So I want you to just be aware that what you are seeing on social media is a curated version of people's lives. It's what they want you to see. Okay? So those are some things that you should never do on social media. And maybe some of the things maybe that you're not doing them already. Maybe you are doing some things and, you're having to think about them now. But look, I think it's really important that, social media is everywhere and so many of us are on it or we are encouraged to be on it or post more. It comes down to do what is comfortable for you, be authentic, right? Pick your level of transparency and just be intentional with why you're doing it and, what are your reasons behind doing it and does it align with this brand that you're putting out there and, what you're trying to create. So that wraps this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, if you do want to connect with me on social media, join the conversation and tell me, what are your thoughts? what are the boundaries that you set for yourself? What is something that perhaps you're struggling with? On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at CJ Canters. On Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm Christina Canters. Just post and tag me there. Well, Christina Canters, The C Method is my Facebook page. I look forward to connecting with you. And finally, if you do want to have your say in the direction of the Stand Out Get Noticed podcast, then I encourage you to fill out the survey. I want to get to 50 respondents. It's not a lot, considering that there's over 50 or 60,000 downloads of this episode every single month. So if you want to have your say, jump on in, fill out the survey at thecmethod.com/survey. The link to that is also in the description of this podcast in your app. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will talk to you next week. I'm Christina Canters, and this has been Stand Out, Get Noticed.